Lincoln Way here in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
1608 Lincoln Way. Can find them at cbdyo1.com.
Yo. How we all doing? Good, I hope. I know I'm doing pretty good.
Don't be afraid to comment, guys. Don't be afraid to share, subscribe, and like this.
Yeah, before we start, find us on 10th Dimension Podcast on YouTube and
10th Dimension Podcast on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro.
Subscribe to our channel.
Thank
We
you so much.
appreciate all the support. Let's get started. What are we
Let's
talking
get it.
about today, Kyle?
Well, we are talking about how insecurities affect the way you live.
Oh,
Yeah. So how insecurities affect the way you go about your day, how insecurities kind of hinder you from what you want to do in your life, how insecurities can ultimately lead to you being a little angry person.
ooh.
Yeah.
I like that. Little and angry. That's
So I
me
kinda-
all the time.
I kind of want to just get straight into it today. I know we have a lot to cover today, so I kind of want to just blow, screw the entertainment. You hear me?
Yeah,
Screw
we
the
don't.
funniness.
We don't do funny. Funny is for people that don't have jobs.
True.
Okay, that's very insulting. I feel like the funniest people have the best jobs.
I don't know about that. Well, a comedian, I guess.
Yeah.
But,
Anyways,
So, you know the movie Good Will Hunting.
Mhm.
You know how Matt Damon portrays this very intelligent young man that has his whole life ahead of him, and he blows by everybody with his intelligence. He studies more law than judges. He knows any date of any Picasso painting ever made, but truthfully, the person that he hasn't experienced a day in his life. He hasn't had the experiences to actually tell somebody and really feel what he's talking about. He has
Yeah.
no emotion behind what he's saying. He just has memorized what numbers. He's memorized, what to say based on definitions in books, and he doesn't really know what definition that he's actually saying. So, he could tell you what this means in a Picasso painting that he studied, but he hasn't actually felt the colors in the paintings. You know what I'm saying?
so he's just like repeating other people's words, pretty much.
Exactly. Yeah. Not original. Yeah. You might be a philosophy genius. You might know every psychological law in the world and ever studied, but does that really mean you have any experience in what you're saying? Does that really mean that you have emotion tied to what you're really trying to portray or mean when you're talking to somebody? So this is a very perfect example of a person that is very insecure with themselves. I'll give you a couple of examples. Well, he was, the scene where he went to the bar and this dude is trying to holler at this girl, and he's like, you're not original. You revise that on page, or chapter, whatever. And he calls out the dude, and he's like, okay, well, you want to just go fight about it? I kind of feel for that dude on the other side. Yeah, the other dude, very well, he needs to grow up.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to sit there and improve his dominance to a girl, trying to get at her from, whatever colors it was. I thought maybe it was Yale. What was it, Yale?
Oh, I don't know. I've never seen Good Will Hunting.
Oh, you haven't? Oh, okay, well, this dude basically, is trying to holler at this girl and kind of showing off his wisdom. Or not wisdom, but like he's showing off.
Like showing off his intelligence.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
How smart he is.
And basically, Will Hunting goes up to this dude, and he said, like I said, he's not, original or anything like that. And basically, he kind of like intellectually destroys him.
Yeah.
But in that itself, that's very insecure.
Yeah. And when the guy got pissed off and wanted to fight him about it.
No. He's like, he basically backed down.
Oh,
and so Will Hunting, he won the argument, and then he goes up. He's like, he slaps the paper on the window. He's like, "You like apples? Well, how about them apples?"
Nice.
I got a number. That's funny, but in the way of, he's quote unquote the alpha male in that perspective in his eyes, but truthfully, he's just a scared little boy.
Yeah.
If you have to prove your dominance and one-upping somebody, then you're not really proving your dominance in any case. If you want to be the quote unquote alpha male, you need to be humble.
Mm-hmm.
alpha males in nature, yeah, they're the most powerful, dominant beings,
Oh yeah,
but human beings are totally different.
we're a lot more complex.
We are way more complex, and people that kind of associate humans to animals don't realize that we are so more complex, and our brains are so much more developed in the way that, we have psychology. We Animals are all instinct. Humans are about psychological. Humans have different ways of expressing feelings, whether it be facial expression, whether it be sarcasm, whether it be all kinds of different things encompassed in what you actually feel as a human.
Mhm.
You can't, and that all this ties into insecurity and what we're talking about today, and that how this can affect your life in such a negative way. Even though you feel like you're such a, ego dominated person, you feel like you're the smartest person in the room. Personally, for me, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I have nothing to learn.
Yeah.
If I walk into a room and I think I'm the smartest person in the room, then obviously I set myself back, because you're never the greatest person in the room. You're never, the this. I mean, you might be the smartest, but then you're not the strongest. You might be the wisest, but then you don't have the knowledge to back it up. You might have the most experience, but then you don't know how to communicate your actions, or then you don't know how to communicate your actual feeling. Because wisdom doesn't mean that you have a lot of experience, but experience means that you do have the wisdom.
Mhm.
And I feel like a lot of people actually, um, a lot of people have a lot of experience, but don't know how to use it, don't know how to portray what kind of, in what kind of cases that, you want to teach. And like I said before, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room, because I'm humble enough and I don't have an ego to be like, you know what, you're better than me. No, that being better means you have an ego.
Mhm.
Nobody's better than anybody, and we all have an equality. And my dad always taught me when I was young was, don't let your ego make decisions for you.
Mhm.
That's probably the most obviously the most important example that he set for me is, don't let your ego, define who you are, because at the end are you at something.
Mhm. Um, you know, with ego's such a thing that's driven into our society nowadays, that it kind of runs rampant, and people wonder what the hell is wrong with them, and it's because they let this idea of themselves define them who as who they are. So if they don't live up to that, then all of a sudden they're a part of their identity is being messed with. And the ego, in my opinion, the ego is this idea of who you are. It's not created by you though. In a sense it can be, but it's always influenced by external brainwashing essentially.
Well, if you have an ego, you are insecure.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well,
Hands down.
I mean, in a sense, there's some people where their ego gets so elevated and they're so attached to their ego that when they're winning, they're freaking winning. Like you can't stop these guys. But once they lose, oh man, do they lose? So I think that when somebody attaches their success to their ego, I mean, there's no 100% way to get rid of ego. But if you attach all of your self worth to your ego, it's going to put you in a very, very vulnerable place for yourself and for your own identity. For me personally, how I see the ego is kind of this, it kind of encompasses everything that you actually are. So, and the ego is made up of false beliefs, it's made up of insecurities, it's made up of ideas of who you want to be. It's pretty much everything that's been pumped into you by everybody else, by your parents, by society, by movies, by friends, by peers. It's everything that they have pumped into you and everything that you try and live up to. And so it's almost in a sense like people pleasing. I have to live up to these people's expectations of me. I have to live up to this image that people see me as. And that's where you really subject yourself to some serious heartache and to some serious habits or some serious bad behaviors that are going to set you back, right? So it encompasses all of this, and then inside of all of that is kind of who you actually are, who you're supposed to be. And you can't define yourself, obviously. All you can do is be yourself. So when somebody tries to be themselves, they're not going to be themselves because they're trying, right? They're already in this trying element. I'm just trying to be myself. No, you don't try. If you're being yourself, it's being, it's not trying. So when you're being yourself, there's no thought attached to it. It's just straight action. That's all that it is. You move and you flow and you breathe, and and you grow. Nice little rhyme there. Anyways, if you have to think about what you're going to say next, that's your ego that's talking. If you have to think about how you're going to act next, that's going to be your ego. If you just naturally act, then not even in the sense act, just be, then you're almost always going to be who you're supposed to be. You're always going to be the person that is underneath that ego, right?
Well, eh, I think that everybody, when they have a conversation, and just like with our podcasts and stuff, we go over and revise, and we talk about what we talked about in the podcast, and then
Previous podcasts.
and exactly, and have that communication between, when either, I mean, we're definitely the same on camera that we're off, but I think that when you talk to somebody gets angry, say at a restaurant, a waiter, kind of gives you a snarky eye. People talk about that, hey, I think he was kind of a dick or anything like that. And basically, I mean, and that's when I think that you could, I think it's not such a bad idea to think about what you're going to say before you say it, is as long as it's who you are,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like a weird point to kind of, define insecurity on, but I think that opposite kind of like, I think we disagree on that, and that's because it's not, if your wife or girlfriend says, "Do I look fat in these pants?" Well, whoa, see, how do I word this? Or like,
Oh, I see what
you
you
see what
mean.
I'm
Yeah, I
saying?
see what you mean. Like you're, but
Like,
you're
no,
like
it looks
feel,
good. It looks good. I mean,
yeah.
that'd be like a mutual kind of thing. If you want to have a fat ass in those jeans, what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Then yeah,
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I see what you mean. Like if you like filter what you say,
yeah,
but even in a sense, like filters are placed there because of society, because of other people. Like if you're around all your dudes and you're talking, it's not going to be the same when you're around your girl and you're talking.
exactly.
And I think that's kind of messed up because you should be able to be yourself all the time. And I think that whoever you are, like around your dudes, I think that's who you actually are, you know? And so if you can't, and it's not even in a sense of like, there's specific things that obviously you don't talk about with your girl, but it doesn't mean that you need to be filtered in a way that's like, so for example, like you're with your boys, like, what's up, dudes? How's it going? Like, blah, 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 blah. Last night was so fucking awesome. We had the greatest time, yada, yada, yada. And then you go and you talk to your girl and it sounds something like, oh, hey, baby, how's it going? I hope you had a good day, blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, why would you just not go in there and talk like you normally do? You
Well,
know?
the aspect on that is your boys are different from your girl.
Oh yeah, but
Do you
the
talk
but
to
the
do
the
you talk to
content
do
that
you talk to your dad the same way that you talk to your girl? You
I
see what I'm saying?
well, so the content that you're talking about
Yeah.
is different. But the way that you talk and the vibe that you put out when you talk doesn't change. It shouldn't change. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, yeah. I
So
mean,
like
I get you what you're saying. Okay.
so you a filter is kind of a thing that holds you back and it keeps you from saying things that you would normally say. And I think that obviously there's context to this, and there's obviously places that you need to apply this. You're not going to walk into a church and be like, motherfucker, motherfucker. No, you're not
Yeah.
going to say, you're not going to do that.
Yeah.
That's just messed up, right? So, but at the same time, it shouldn't hinder you from being who you actually are.
No.
So, a good example for me would be going into a social interaction and I'm immediately putting this like cool filter on. I'm Mr. Cool Guy. What's up? Like, how's it going? How you guys doing? How's your night going?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I put on that voice. But anyways, I'm trying to put on this cool vibe, and that's the idea. I'm trying, and then if I just go in and I be myself, who cares? I can just own everything that's me. I think that when you filter something, you're trying to hide something. When you have an ego, you're trying to hide an insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
There's always something that you're compensating for. And that always is holding you back from actually being who you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And that's the idea where the ego doesn't want to own the deepest, darkest insecurities of yours, the deepest, darkest like quirks that you have.
Well,
But if you do own up to those things naturally, then it's going to set you free.
yeah. Well, the quickest way to dissolve any ego is just be honest. The fastest way to grow an ego is have this mindset, or this person that you're seeing in the mirror actually not the person in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
You look in the mirror and you're like, you know what, this is who I am. Boom, fucking, I have a goal set. Just because I didn't accomplish what I did yesterday. That doesn't make me a piece of shit, but I need to step up and I need to do my shit.
Mhm.
I need to
Like keep yourself accountable.
exactly. And keeping yourself accountable is actually the best way to keep yourself honest and control your ego. And ego, like, I mean, we are talking about is ego is insecurity driven.
Mhm.
You can't have, and like you were saying how it's not, I feel like it is. if you if you're an egotistical person that views yourself as such a I'm better than somebody, I'm more than, it's I feel like in myself I'm equal to a homeless person. No. Have I accomplished more than somebody that's on the streets? Yes. But does that mean I have more worth than him? No.
But I mean, like at the end of the day, this whole fucking world just spins out of control and ends, right? Like,
Well, we associate success with money, and
yeah.
that's not
Well,
how it should
and
be.
materialistic
Yeah.
wealth.
Well, when you strive to get the best house, get the best car, have the most beautiful trophy wife, then you are very insecure
Yeah.
because
Well,
it
and
matters
that's
what you have, not who you are.
yeah, and that's driven by external factors.
Yeah.
Like by what society tells
Society.
you
Yeah.
what is
Mhm.
successful. Um, so with the ego, for me, the ego, yes, it's kind of a layer that you place over your insecurities. It's a layer that you place over all the things that you don't like about yourself. And it's a way that you compensate to try and maintain this image of your best qualities. And when you do that, it actually hurts you because what's one of the things that makes somebody unique? It's not necessarily their strengths. It's more in a sense their weaknesses. And I wouldn't even call them weaknesses. I would just call them quirks. I would call them like little flaws. Like in an artwork, it can be perfected and it can be absolutely perfect sometimes. But there's always some little flaw. There's always some little quirk in the actual painting that makes it unique to the artist, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you compare a picture painted by Leonardo da Vinci compared to Michelangelo, there's gonna be some differences there, and you're gonna be like, and if you're well revised in art history, you're gonna be able to tell, okay, this is Michelangelo's work, this is Da Vinci's work. There's always that little quirk. Now, if you just and with the ego is essentially you're taking Leonardo da Vinci's painting and you're just copying it exactly the same as his painting. And you just try and do that and you try and make it absolutely a carbon copy of that. And because when you do that, it makes it so hard to micromanage every little detail that you're putting into that painting. And in a sense, and so just the analogy here is that's you. So when you're ego driven, you are trying to copy somebody else's painting. And it can be made up of several different paintings. It could be made up of several different things. This is society has said, your parents, so on and so forth. And then you're also painting over your insecurities and you're constantly trying to micromanage. So, like, say we have an interaction, you're trying to micromanage each of those insecurities to make sure that they don't come out, right?
Yeah.
So, like, somebody who's balding will wear a hat just to hide that insecurity. Somebody who is not insecure and like lets go of their ego, they don't wear a hat. They're like, whatever, this is me. This is all of me. They just lay their cards out. And, somebody who is ego driven is trying to play a different hand and they're not playing the hand they were given.
Yeah.
And a person that is more in tune with themselves and that is some ego driven things, but in a sense, you can still let go of it a little bit and kind of go in more into yourself. And when you go more into yourself, you're playing all of the cards that you were dealt. And when you do that, that allows you to actually be the person that you are supposed to be.
Well, it kind of sucks when your strength defines who you are. I'll give you an example. Patrick Mahomes had a phenomenal season in football. He plays the Kansas City Chiefs quarterback.
Yeah.
Second year coming in through like 52 touchdowns. He was an MVP last year, and that moment defines him. He comes in the next year, say he only throws 40 touchdowns, and he doesn't have as many yards, and they don't win as many games. That moment defines him. Now he's expected to win like that. Now he's expected to be the MVP and throw 53 touchdowns, 52 touchdowns.
Well, that's the expectations.
That's the expectation. And imagine, well, that's what people put on him, and just imagine the expectation he has that for himself. And that's going to be a big hit this season if he only throws 40 touchdowns and he's just like, I didn't do well enough. Like, bro, you threw 40 touchdowns. Like, that's more than anybody, and that strength kind of defines him in that if he doesn't live up to that, if Tom Brady doesn't go to the Super Bowl, he had a losing season. It's like, no, you still went to the AFC Championship game. But that's kind of like sometimes strengths define people, and strengths are our greatest weaknesses.
I got you. Something I'd like to bring in since we're talking about sports is basketball. So Kobe Bryant, the legendary Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, KB.
Someone call him the GOAT. Anyways, I can't remember what this book is called. Anyways, he describes something that he calls the zone. It's when he's playing a game and he's like, all I'm playing for is for when I get in the zone. I'm just waiting for that chance to get in the zone. And so what he basically describes the zone is as that he's faster than he's ever been. He thinks faster than he's ever thought. He's just on point. Like his game is on. He's in the zone, right? And how he describes it is that almost his brain turns off and he's just flowing,
Just doing it.
just doing it. Like it's the
It's
easiest.
second nature.
It's just the easy. It's the easiest thing for him to do. And so, in a sense, if he's thinking about, oh, I got to have a great, awesome game. I got to do better than I did last time. I got to get this many points. Blah 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 blah. Got to do this. Got to do that. If his mind's occupied with those thoughts, he doesn't get into the zone because he's occupied with an expectation. He's occupied with an ego-driven goal. And he's in order to be in the zone, you have to let go of all those things and you have to bring yourself into that moment and just live in that moment. Right. And I think that people that have this ego that has just got so big and out of control and defines them is something that holds them back and it keeps them from getting in, quote unquote, the zone of life. If you go out and you're just hanging out with your dudes, but you like say you're a single guy and you just want to go out and talk to girls, you're going to have some expectations for yourself and you have a lot of thoughts, you're going to have a lot of fears. But the biggest thing is just get in there and start to play and trying to get yourself into that zone. Because that's how Kobe Bryant does it. He doesn't think his way into the zone. He plays his way into the zone. It's like a course of action that he takes to get himself there. So in a sense, you could try and think yourself into the zone, but your thoughts always spin in these unending loops, right? And your ego is the same way because your ego is a part of your brain. So the ego is developed from the neocortex of the brain, which is the last part of the thing to develop of the human brain. It's kind of the thing that sets us back. It sets us apart from the animals. That's why dogs move and react through emotion, right? Because they have the cortex, but they don't have the neocortex, which encompasses the cortex. That's why we can think logically and all that fun stuff. One of the things that the downsides is that it's where the ego lies. A dog doesn't really have an ego, right? It's just an emotional creature. You
It's
get
all just second nature.
Yeah, you get mad at it, and it's gonna get sad. If you do this, it's gonna be happy, so on and so forth. The same for children, right? A 3-year-old child, they don't have an ego. They don't have this expectation. They just have emotions. That's why they'll throw random temper tantrums. That's why they'll randomly start laughing, right? And so then when you have a later point in life when that neocortex develops, and it's usually around, after 3 years old, like 5 years old and on, that's when it really starts to develop. That's when you start running into problems. That's when children really start having a lot of issues. And then puberty hits, and that's where it gets 10 times worse because now it's about finding your identity.
Or it's just all a bunch of hormone imbalance, and your body has no idea what the hell to do with all these new feelings and
all these new things like having wet dreams. You got them growing pains. Oh yeah. But anyways, when it comes down to it, I think that our logical brain, our neocortex, kind of gets in the way of us actually being who we're supposed to be. And that doesn't mean that you need to be an emotional creature and react and act through emotion. It means that you need to be logical, of course, but it also means that you need to balance everything, right? That's why I love yin and yang, and I think it's Taoism. Yin and yang is just about balance. It's about balance in everything. And if there's an imbalance in you, so for instance, if you're somebody's like yin, I think it's yin, or maybe it's yang. I don't know which one it is. But one of them is, I think the black one is concerned with strife, goals, success, winning, victory, so on and so forth. If you're all yin or yang, whatever one it is, but you're not balancing it out with the opposite, you're going to burn out really quick, right? It's just, you're not going to have that proper balance. And so when it comes to being yourself and being the person that you're supposed to be and making decisions, you're going to have to balance that with logic and emotion. Like you have to balance those two. And I think too many people get attached to emotion. For example, if you're afraid of something, that's a good thing. That is a good thing because it enlightens you to a possible threat, right? If you don't get scared, if you don't feel the feeling of fear, you're not picking up on the lion that's stalking you in the bushes that's going to kill you, right? So fear has saved our lives in the past for, for ever since we've existed.
Mhm.
But too many people start associating fear with things that don't matter. So they get afraid to talk to a stranger. They get afraid to step up in front of a group of people and make a presentation, so on and so forth. They associate things that don't actually threaten their livelihood, that don't threaten their being, and don't threaten their lives, right? You're not going to die if you go up and talk to a stranger. You're not going to die if you give a presentation in front of a group of people.
Mhm.
But we don't know how to break that association between the two because of the ego. The ego is, so if we go up and we talk to a stranger and it doesn't go as our ego has imaged us as, you go up and you see yourself like your ego's like, oh, I'm a confident, awesome person. You go up and have an interaction with somebody and you're like super insecure and they make fun of you and bully you. That your ego is gonna associate that with death because the ego only knows death, right?
Well, I think the part of that ego is about confidence and having confidence in yourself, and I kind of want to tie all this together with how to work on your insecurities and
Yeah.
how to work on, not having such an ego, and work on basically, waking up every day and just being happy that you're on this earth,
Yeah, like
just being happy with yourself. And because life is a uphill battle. Life is, you are a car, life is the mountain, and if you get stuck in neutral, bro, you're going downhill.
Mhm.
I mean, and a lot of people have, I think a lot of people are afraid of what they can actually truly accomplish because that expectation is now tied to them.
Mhm.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate, but we are powerful beyond measure. I
Ooh.
have that on my body and my left bicep, and that's because it means
Ooh.
so much to me. That quote itself just explains that, you're afraid to succeed because the expectation tied to you is going to become greater. And even with, say, Joe Rogan's podcast, and I talk about him all the time on this podcast, is because he has a lot of great people on. He has a lot of people that know a bunch of stuff, and he himself is a very intelligent person. And he talks about it too, and in that, people can call us, quote unquote, limelight. I think what you went to Laramie one weekend and was like, dude, I love your fucking podcast, bro.
Mhm.
How is it coming with such and such? And that can tie you to, what we said that we were going to do. And that's awesome. I
Mhm.
like that because
Mhm.
you're keeping me accountable.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But also, too, if you're going to keep somebody else accountable, make sure you keep yourself accountable.
Yeah.
Don't call out somebody for not keeping their religion, not keeping their, diet, unless you're willing to do that yourself. Because at that point, you're just calling somebody out and you're just basically Facebooking it, bro. You're
Yeah.
just, I'm gonna beat you up on the Facebook, but then you see him in real life, you're like scared to death of him. It's
Mhm.
like, what are you really about what we're saying, or you're really not what you're about what you're saying?
Mhm.
You know?
Um, so what I like about the whole accountability thing, just to spin off of that,
Yeah.
is those people, like for me as a coach, I can't be there every second of the day for clients.
Yeah,
They have to make
obviously.
those decisions for
Mhm.
themselves. I can't keep them accountable to those things. My point is that you have to keep yourself accountable because you're the only person that's with yourself all the time. And so if you're not keeping yourself accountable through the small little things throughout your day, then you're going to spiral downwards, right? Somebody, if it's coming to eating healthy, if you're going to eat healthy, you have to make the conscious decision to eat healthy. You have to keep yourself disciplined. And what's nice about all of this is that it's not as much of a struggle as you think that it is.
No.
If you keep yourself accountable and stay disciplined, and the more you do it, the more you spin that wheel, the more it becomes part of your habits and the more automatic it becomes. And because of that, it just gets easier and easier and easier to the point where you don't realize that you're doing it. But here's the thing. You have to keep doing it.
Mhm.
And then there's got to be a point where you're doing something else that's new. Too many people get stuck in the same wheel and don't move on to the next. It's kind of like vehicles of life. You have one vehicle that takes you to this spot in life. and then you just stay in that vehicle, or do you move on to the next
Mm.
vehicle? Is you got this new car, you drive this car till it's done. Do you just not get another car? Right? So there's all these different vehicles to take us from one place to the next to the next. For instance, for me, a vehicle that took me from a place of not being very successful, from being shy and unconfident, was speech and debate in college and public speaking. I made sure to put myself in that vehicle and learn those specific things. That vehicle took me super far. It got me out of my comfort zone. It got me out of the place that I was in. Then it was time to move on to the next vehicle. Well, I didn't move on to the next vehicle. I stayed in that vehicle for a long time. And years. And then there had to be a defining moment. It was like the freaking car exploded, right? The car just blew up and my whole life was turned upside down. That's the action that it took for me to move on to the next vehicle. And that next vehicle was me coming up here and, getting a job at North Platte Physical Therapy. That vehicle then took me a little bit further. I was going to college at the same time, but it only took me so far. And then I went to Golds, and now Golds is taking me further than any vehicle ever has. And I'm seeing great experiences with all of that. But the main point is like, don't stay in the same vehicle, like change vehicles. And vehicles are circumstances, are situations, are areas, are environments, are people that you surround yourself with, and are things that you pursue. Always change vehicles.
Well, I think a lot of people get stuck in looking in the rear view mirror of what they were and or where they were and what they've how far they come, but they keep looking back.
Mhm.
Like a lot of people keep a little smidgen of like a window open. Close that thing, man. Like if you're talking about exes, if you're talking about addiction, if you're talking about, you know, I'm not gonna say death because death is kind of, you kind of always keep that window open,
Mhm.
but
Just for memory.
just look back at it and see the good times that you had, see the lessons that you learned from your ex, see the lessons that you learned from addiction, but don't keep it open. Just
Mhm.
look back at it once in a while and appreciate where you are now. Just keep moving forward, and that's a very tough thing because when you're very insecure, you always want to bring back up things that you did. How about bringing up things that you're going to do, or things that you're working towards?
Yeah.
Because when you get stuck in the rearview mirror, you always want to bring up, yeah, man, I was a quarterback at my high school. Well, what are you? You're 30 years old today.
Yeah. What do you now?
What are you doing now?
Yep.
Cool. You made varsity squad quarterback. Fantastic, bro. But that was 10 years ago. That
Yeah.
was 12 years ago.
Mhm.
What are you doing now to further your life? Because you're not in high school anymore, bud. You're not 22 and the man at the bar. You're 30 years old now. And what are you working towards now?
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good point because you see it everywhere.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how often people describe that person. There's always one of them in every hometown, like
Every
every
single
single
time.
hometown. Um, I like that analogy though with the rear view mirror. I've actually heard something similar. So you're in a vehicle. You're in a vehicle. The vehicle's talking about, we went from this place to the next. Your rear view mirror is there, but what is your rear view mirror? Like how much can you see? Like your vision is so narrowed.
Mhm.
Now your windshield, what can you see through your windshield?
100%.
You can see like everything, right? Everything that's in front of you, you can see all of it. Now, what do you see when you look at a mileage sign for how far you have to go? You just see how far you have to go. You don't see where you're going. You don't understand how far that is to go. You
Mhm.
just see it. And that is a perfect example of past, present, and future. The past being the rearview mirror. Yeah, you can see into the past, but it's a very narrow view that's obscured by your own bias. And then everything that's in the present moment is and then you look at the mileage sign and you can't see anything because you don't know what the future is going to be.
And to lessen the weight that you have is you need to open up all of your baggage out and keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't do that, you're hanging on baggage that is going to hold you back from getting farther.
Mm-hmm.
And how to work on getting your baggage gone is, like very hard to do, because if you grew up and, nice clothes, you always got Gucci on, you always got, Cadillacs, those people really kind of were, hindered in a way growing up because you had all these material objects. But when you grow up with Walmart shoes and Shacks, you think you're fucking cool and shit. Because I would, yeah, got the Shacks on, bro. But you kind of you appreciate the struggle because I'd personally rather struggle and fail and fail and fail and fail and learn from those failures than succeed all the way through and not learn a damn thing.
Oh yeah, there's a saying called failure through success.
Yeah.
Like you succeed so much that you fail.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it doesn't, the failures are the stuff that really teaches you the lessons that you need to learn, not the successes. The successes are your reward for enduring all of that failure. Right. And I think that's really important because you need to endure those failures. This whole last week for me personally was loaded with failures. It was loaded with uncertainty. It was insane. But I'm glad that I went through all of that because now it's actually given me a better vision of where I need to go, and it's given me a better direction, and it's enlightened mistakes that I've made that I will never make again, right? And that's, I think, the only way that people truly learn that's fully integrated into their minds and into their bodies is through failure. That's the only way that everybody learns something 100%.
And I kind of want to make a note in quitting is not failure. Quitting is quitting. Because when you fail, you tried your ass off. You gave everything you had. But when you quit, that affects you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, you just gave up.
You gave up.
Yeah.
And in quitting, I mean not quitting a relationship. Because if you're in a terrible relationship when your girl or guy starts whipping your ass, that's not quitting.
No.
You tried and you failed. But quitting is you have a great person in your life. And I'm just using a relationship as an analogy. When you have a great person in your life, is great for you, but you find that one little baby flaw, maybe a little selfishness, maybe a little dirty. Yeah, that's quitting.
They got a hair coming out of their nose.
Yeah, like that's quitting. It really is.
No, I agree.
And that's insecurity within yourself because you feel like you're being judged by everybody else by how your partner looks or acts.
Yeah.
If you love them, it doesn't matter.
I don't want to bring this person around my family for how she acts.
Yeah.
And then you try and micromanage that and it just makes things worse.
Mm-hmm.
No, with quitting, when it comes to quitting is one of those things that it's giving up. It really is. It's,
God damn it.
I like to compare it like this because I like to give myself over dramatic abstractions, over dramatic perspectives on things, because then it allows me to stick to those things more. So it's kind of like your mother is dying or your father is dying or somebody's dying, somebody that you love is dying, and quitting and giving up is not doing everything in, like, you have the so this person is dying, but you have the opportunity to find a way to save their lives, and you just give up because you can't. You just keep looking, you can't find it, but it's out there. But that person dies, that thing that you love dies.
The main point that I think that you're indirectly making is you are responsible for
dreams.
You are responsible for you. A lot of people put their failures on other people. A lot of people put I quit because of because of fucking you. You are not responsible enough to humble yourself and get rid of your ego and get rid of all your insecurities. That lies on different from animals. I'm sorry.
No, I totally agree with you, and I'm glad you said that, because the whole point of my analogy is like, this loved one is dying, and you can do something to stop it, and you can do something to save them. You can do something to bring them back to life and save their lives and make their lives. And what's funny about this thing, that this loved one in this analogy, is that it's just your dreams. It's your dreams. And if you don't make the effort to save your dream's life, it's gonna die, and you're gonna die regretting knowing that you could have saved that loved one, saved that person, saved that dream. And who is it? I think it's I can't remember his name. I think it's like Anthony Brown, something like that.
Motivational speaker. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I forgot his name too.
Graveyard being the richest place because it's where everybody's dreams are. It could have been, somebody could have cured cancer that's in the graveyard. Somebody could have, made some amazing product, but it's in the graveyard. The graveyard is the richest place because the graveyard houses the dead dreams of so many people. And then he goes on further to explain,
Mm.
imagine being like this. I'm going to try and quote it the best that I can, but he said, imagine being on your deathbed. And around your deathbed is all of the dreams and aspirations and goals that you've had in life. And they look at you and they say, you gave up. You quit on us. You didn't pursue us. Like, and just imagine that. Like, imagine them as people, like your mother, your father, your grandparents, your loved one, your significant other. Imagine them being that and standing around you, and they're your dreams and aspirations, and they're talking through them, telling you you failed. Why did you stop? Why did you give up? Why didn't you pursue us? Why didn't you keep going?
Because of your insecurities.
Yeah. And then Jim Carrey goes on to explain his father. His father was a white collar type dude. He was working in different jobs, factory jobs, so on and so forth. He worked in this one job for almost 15 years and then eventually got let go of that job. Well, his father always wanted to be, I think it was a firefighter or a musician. I think it was a musician. His father always wanted to be a musician. He said, the main lesson that I learned from my father is that no matter, like, you can fail at something that you hate, so you might as well fail at something that you love.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's super important. Obviously you need to have some sort of job or career that supports you and your family, but that doesn't mean that you give up on the things that you want to become,
Mhm.
unless they're like totally out of this world, like you want to be some sort of extraterrestrial alien running out of Area 51. There it was. We brought it back. We can't forget this, guys. We cannot forget this. Anyways,
I kind of want to make an analogy here in
yeah,
that, uh, you know, I really do like that saying of, might as well fail at something that you want to do and
yeah,
instead of
that you
failing at
feel is
something you
something you
hate.
love. Yeah.
Um, but you know, a bunch of when you're pursuing your dreams, when you're pursuing anything that you want to do, you are going to have a million people telling you how to fucking do it.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that's never done it in their life suddenly knows exactly how to fucking get to that point where you need to be.
They drop the shoulds on you.
Just like, I mean, and I do appreciate input, especially with big dreaming. I mean, shit, I have this on my body, and that's because I believe in myself.
Yeah.
I know I'm not gonna fail. And if I do, which is not gonna fucking happen, I'll look at down on this and be like, you know what? I gave everything that I fucking had.
Yeah.
I gave everything.
Mm-hmm.
I wake up thinking big dreaming about designs, about how we can express the brand a little bit better. What kind of different. I'm always up thinking about something, but you got to get past the fact that people are going to judge you for it.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started out, especially when I knew I was pushing this shit hard, I knew a bunch of people talking mad shit on me. Like, why is he even trying to start up a clothing company?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
isn't everybody doing that? Like, anybody can do that.
Well, you
Okay, well, fucking anybody can do it. Well, why aren't you doing it
yeah,
then?
exactly. Well,
Anybody can have a podcast. There's 600,000 podcasts, but I guarantee people don't have the knowledge and the physical, mental capability to have an intelligent conversation. And that's what I feel like. That's what you guys want, and I feel like that's what I like doing.
mhm.
I especially like doing that.
No, it's funny because you can see the same thing with our podcast. When we first started this podcast, I mean, yeah, it was clunky and our videos weren't great, and
Yeah.
and we were just learning the ropes of doing an actual podcast and doing unscripted videos and such. But now look at where we're at. Look at how far we've come, and it's funny because there were so many people that I came across that were like talking about the podcast,
Yeah.
but it was in like a sarcastic science, like sarcastic type tone, like almost making fun of it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you've seen your podcast list. It was pretty funny. Like, and they like
Yeah.
trying to drop this like hint of like, you guys suck.
Yeah.
Stop it.
But they don't want to say it to your face.
Yeah, and so it was funny hearing all of that and just hearing all the criticism behind that. And I mean, now look.
Oh, yeah, I know exactly who you're talking
No,
about.
I mean,
Yeah.
like now look at where we're at.
Yeah,
We're
I mean,
getting interviews with the radio. People know us all over, and it's awesome. I'm trying not to let the fame go to my head, but the other thing is too is like the people that are closest to you are gonna be the ones that criticize you the most. I know when I first started making videos, there's a lot of people that were very close to me that just made fun of me, and I thought it was the stupidest thing ever. And you're gonna make money off of this? That's ridiculous. Why don't you go to college and get a job? Is this traditional type thinking. And now, for me personally, everything is taken off.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to see that. And I always love that because it always fuels me when somebody
Yeah.
tells me that I can't do it. But it's so funny because when you see that, you see those people making fun of you, you see those people like, yeah, but then you come a little bit further, they start to come out like, oh, that's so awesome. I love it, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, why are you trying to hop on the bandwagon now, dude? Where were
Yeah.
you at the beginning?
You know what? And I do appreciate those people because they make me just push harder.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if I get shit from somebody, and I'm not even talking about in a podcast sense, you know, it's just I don't let that, and that's because I feel like I'm content with myself,
Mhm.
and that's why I've worked on and how to actually get rid of your insecurities. And like, obviously, it's one, be honest with yourself, and two, don't give a shit what people will fucking think of you.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the biggest thing, bro. I drive around a beater car. I don't give a shit
Yeah.
because it gets me from A to B, and there's no car payment on it.
No.
You're riding around in Cadillacs, but
Mhm.
you got a huge car payment. I'm paying my bills.
Yeah.
So I mean, and that's the second, and that is the biggest thing, is because do I want to ride around in a Cadillac? Of course I do,
Yeah.
but I'm not there yet.
No.
I'm not financially there yet, and I know that, and that's totally okay.
Mhm.
I asked a girl out to a date yesterday, and I said, you know what, my bills are kind of tight. Can we go somewhere else? And she's like, you know what, I don't want to have to pay for my own meal. And I'm like, okay, well, you're very insecure with yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm like, what I did was like,
All right,
okay,
cool.
cool, whatever.
Bye.
I don't care,
Yeah.
because at that point you're expecting, things handed to you. Which, would I like to provide a meal? Sure, but can I? No, because I'm very responsible.
Yeah.
So in that case, but I think, and I will say this every podcast until we end this, which is going to be never.
Never.
But
Even when we're dead, we're gonna be talking from the grave.
the the first thing you need to do every day to accomplish what you need to do, make your bed.
Make your bed. We said it 1,000
Make your
times.
bed.
No, I totally agree with everything that you just said. I'm glad that you said those things. For me personally, I've always let criticism and I've always let sarcasm and I've always let people that have that thinking of, ooh, he's never gonna make it, blah blah blah. I've always let it fuel me. It's always been my fuel. For me, when I first started getting into fitness and bodybuilding, it was like, you can never be big. You're just a skinny little guy. You'll never put on any muscle. I was like, no, screw those people.
Yeah.
And it just fueled me. And it wasn't that I attached my worth to what those people thought, like put on all this muscle and I come back to them like, hey, look at me now, and like looking for their approval. No, I was like, screw that person. I'm gonna do this because I know I can. I'm gonna do everything in my power to make this happen. But when on touching on the not caring what other people think, it truly frees you up, because when you don't care what other people think, you start to focus more on what you think of yourself.
Exactly.
And that really opens you up to actually being being who you want to be,
Yeah.
and finding the things that you want. One thing that I love to talk about is the reticular activation system, the RAS, because the RAS is something that is absolutely super important in the brain. It's the filter of the brain that filters out all the useless information that you see throughout the world. Because obviously, you go out onto the street, there's a million different things happening all around you, and your brain cannot possibly process all of that information, right? So what your reticular activation does is it filters out all the unnecessary stuff, or stuff that aligns with who you are and who you see yourself as and where you want to go. If you see yourself as somebody that's insecure, I'll never make it, I'm a failure, blah 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 blah, there's going to be things that your reticular activation thing picks up on that's going to reinforce that. You start seeing homeless people and how helpless they are, and you start connecting yourself with that.
Yeah.
You start seeing that your car has a flat tire, so now you immediately connect that to how unlucky you are and how much of a victim of life you are. But if you're somebody that changes your perspective and you're seeking more, this happened to me recently. For me, I want my YouTube channel, I want this YouTube channel, I want all of our social media platforms to take off. I want people to watch and want people to get something out of this. I want to change at least one life. That's what's most important. And that just started fueling me more and more and more. Just build up momentum. And now it's like I'm seeing a whole different world all around me. And before that, I was just seeing misery, and I had this victimized mentality. Why does this always happen to me? Blah, 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 blah. Now it's like, holy cow. Like, now it's like, this is awesome that all this happens to me because now my reticular activation system is picking up on all the cool things. It's picking up on different ideas and
Yeah.
different information, and I
But
think that's
not because you're
awesome.
looking for it.
Oh yeah, and subconsciously you're looking for it. I think there's a point where you have to force yourself into it, and how you can do this is that you kind of it's I don't want to say fake it till you make it, but you just kind of keep grinding, keep crawling out of the mess, keep going, keep pushing, keep driving, even if you're almost on empty in your tank.
Mhm.
Keep going, because eventually there's gonna be a gas station that's gonna fill you back up. It's gonna take you even further.
I think that everybody should, try to. I mean, not everybody should try to do a podcast, but everybody just live up to your dreams, do your dreams, and I if your dream is to be the best knitter, of all time, like your grandma knit, fucking
Yeah,
knit,
do it. If
dude.
you like to
I
finger paint,
support
finger
it,
paint.
dude. I support it because if you're not scared of the backlash that you get for being,
A 30-year-old dude that knits.
yeah, dude, be the fucking knitter.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, bro, it doesn't matter what anybody else cares. How are they gonna? How are How are they gonna the people that are negative gonna push you to your dreams? And that's why you gotta associate with yourself with positive people that, yeah, don't always agree with what you're saying, but want you to go in the same a great direction and keep on pushing yourself.
Oh yeah. I think that a good question that everybody could ask themselves, you could even ask yourself right now, is could I be okay talking about this with somebody else?
Yeah.
This specific hobby. A big one could be like video games. Like you're in a big group of people, a mixed group of guys and girls, and it's like in a bar setting, and they're like all super cool people. And like somebody brings up, like somebody starts talking to you, like, so I heard you like to game it up, blah 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 blah, and they're like trying to make fun of you. They're like, oh, you like this, you like anime, you like, oh, you like anime, you like Dragon Ball Z, and then you're like, you own up to that. So ask
What are
yourself
they
that.
gonna say?
Yeah, I mean, ask yourself that question: is would I be, if you're playing a video game, if you're reading a book or doing whatever? Ask yourself the question of, would I be okay if somebody else was here watching this, experiencing this with me? Would it affect my experience with whatever it is
Yeah.
that I'm doing? And if it does, then you are living your life off of other people's expectations, and you're caring about too much about what other people think. And you're not, and how you break that is you just own up to it.
Mhm.
You own, that's
And,
how you break that.
and my dad always taught me, and I think this should be our last topic. But my dad always taught me, and it's such a simple life lesson, but it's so hard to actually do, especially when you're in high school.
Yeah.
My dad was telling me, don't even care what people think. I mean, if you want to date this girl because, and if she's not the most attractive girl, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And all my friends had, like beautiful girlfriends and stuff, and I was always the skinny kid that, you know, couldn't even get a fucking, I don't know, a kiss.
Yeah.
It's just like a analogy, but and I always kind of so insecure what everybody else thought that I didn't have a good high school experience because of it.
Mm-hmm.
I could have been a little bit happier, could have had a little bit more experiences, but I didn't want to, let myself get to that point where I was with this not attractive girl because she's not attractive or anything like that. It's just, I don't know. It's that was insecure Kyle.
Yeah.
It was.
Well, I think we've all been there
Yeah.
personally. But yeah, I think that the lesson of the day for everybody is own up to everything that you are,
And be honest.
and be honest. Like, be honest.
Be honest
Just
with yourself.
be honest and
Just fucking
own
be
up
honest.
and own up to it. And that's it. Like, if you can do that, if you can own all your little quirks, all your weird things that you would not be okay with other people seeing, own up to that. Don't be afraid of that, and display that within a socially intelligent manner. Don't be a psychopath. Go in and be calibrated with people. But
Well, I mean, associate yourself with. I think that everybody should ask themselves this question right now: and do you associate with people that are helping you or hindering you?
mm-hmm.
That's the question of the day, I think.
What, you think that's better than my question?
Yeah.
Go brew, you guy.
Are you hindering me?
Are you hindering
Are you
me?
hindering
Are
me?
you hindering me? What's your ego doing right now, guy?
Well,
No.
thanks for joining, guys. I really appreciate it. We really appreciate it here at 10th Dimension Podcast. We're going to be having a 10th Dimension Fitness also on our podcast page. So go ahead and like, subscribe, comment, share, love. Not like, love.
Love it. Put a little heart up there.
I'm KT Fitness 42 on Instagram. Also,
My name is Jacob Preston. You know it. Jacob Preston Fitness on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. Jacob Preston Fitness on Facebook. Get on my YouTube. There's a lot of cool stuff that's coming. I'm pretty excited about it. I don't know about you, but I'm really excited about it.
You know why? Because I'm helping you, not hindering you.
Yes. I don't know. Sometimes it's just like, I wish this guy would leave me alone. Anyways, thank you guys. We hope you liked the video. Feel free to comment, ask us any questions, subscribe to that channel.
Thank you. Thank you.
Peace.
Pinky up. Put the pinky up.